and call our work session to order. Jeff, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Councillor Mayton.
Present.
Councillor Smallwood.
Here.
Councillor Sheldon.
Here.
Councillor Walker.
Here.
Councillor Exner.
Here.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here. All right, I'll kind of go through our agenda for tonight per usual. Pausing if there's any questions. Obviously, it's a pretty light agenda tonight. We'll start with any calls for changes to the agenda. We'll then get into our public comment. Have we had anybody submit online? Or
No, Mayor, we haven't.
Okay. But we do have a response to previous meetings, public comments. We'll then get our consent agenda. This week says our city council meeting minutes from August 7th, public works procurement, compact excavator, transit grant agreement number 35396, transit grant agreement number 35560. Kathleen, I saw your email exchange. Are you pretty satisfied there? Or do
Yeah,
you
I think
okay,
Andy's got,
cool.
she's on it.
Great. We'll then round off our evening for our public meeting with a report from our city manager, committee and council report, as well as a recognition of our Chief Ernie Roberts, who's about to retire after a lengthy time of service here in our community. We'll then, reminder, we'll go into our city council executive session then at the end of that meeting. With that, let's start our work session. We have Nellie here to give us a legislative session debrief and our government discussion of our government relation priorities. It's been an interesting session, Nellie. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As you know, I'm Nellie DeVries. I'm with, I represent you at the state level currently. And as you can imagine, it was a very complicated session. We were very fortunate enough to have Councillor Mayton and Walker and Mayor Pulliam come to Salem several times to meet with the capital construction legislators to really kind of talk about the need for water. And we met with the full Ways and Needs Committee. I mean, we met with everyone. And obviously water was the priority, but we were tracking about just over 100 bills that would affect the city in one way or another. As you can imagine, with 6 weeks of the session to go, actually 7 weeks, excuse me, the walkout happened in the Senate. The Senate Republicans walked out. That walkout was led by your senator, Senator Bonham. And I mean, he's kind of led the charge, I guess I should say. And so, as you can imagine, that's led to a lot of animosity on all fronts. Eventually, the walkout, as you probably know, it's in my report, and I'm sure you all read that very thoroughly. But it was over reproductive rights and gun laws, and so the walkout happened, and a lot of bills died. There was a push in the final week of session to get the Republicans back, so there was a lot of deals that were cut to get some Republicans back to finish session. And that did happen, and obviously they sine died on the very last day. One of the most controversial bills was the variance bill, and now it's been so long, it's 3114. I think my number, I think it's 3414, but anyway, that would have essentially taken power away from local governments to add more housing. It was a priority with the home builders and the governor because housing is our #1 priority. And that bill lost by 1 vote. It was one of the last bills voted on right before the Christmas tree bill. Kind of rambling on here a bit, but you know, I met with Senator Girard's office the Friday before the Christmas tree bill dropped, and we were on the list. And not all Republicans came back, and I can't definitively say what the reason was, but Sandy was removed from the list on that Monday. And we did everything that we honestly could do, and it pains me to have to look you all in the eye and say, you know, we obviously didn't get it. So it was a very political session, and you know, I've been doing this since 2006, and I have never gone through anything this extreme. I mean, yes, the Republicans have walked out 5 years in a row, but
This was a different one.
but this was
Yeah.
a little more intense.
Yeah.
So
And long.
it was very long, painfully long.
Yeah.
But you know, I kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about how we want to pivot. You know, water, you have a very good case for water, and I've gone back and forth with Jeff and Tyler on this. We've had this conversation over and over again. But, you know, water, you have a very good case for water. And I mean, your staff has done a wonderful job kind of teeing it up, getting ready. We got in all the doors we needed to get into. We have a very compelling case, and it just politically didn't work out. But there's also an opportunity to pivot to wastewater, which, because the housing moratorium is directly linked to wastewater, I think there might be an opportunity there. And we can, you know, even though we just spent the last 9 months talking about water, I think the pivot won't be that difficult because of the EPA fine. Not that that's widely known, but I think it's a great opportunity to kind of say, look, we're trying to compel, you know, we're trying to do everything we can to ensure that we're meeting the standards and doing what we need to do. So there is an opportunity there. And I just kind of wanted to, I know I talked to Councilor Exner about this too, but I just wanted to kind of ask you that question and see kind of what your thoughts are on that. I mean, it seems like it might be a natural pivot, but I'll start.
Yeah, Carl, yeah.
Yes, I got a great conversation with Nellie earlier this month. I wonder if some of these issues, she's been very diplomatic about it, but if our senator might be encouraged to maybe have a chat with us sometime and to see where we can either mend some fences or find some ways to relook at that. I know that we're kind of in that mode now where we're going to have to take our breath and move on until the next time this thing comes up. But I wonder if it wouldn't hurt to invite Mr. Bonham over and kind of chat a little bit, and maybe even Representative Hibbs, see where we are with that as a group. I don't know if we could either do it in a work session or over lunch or something, but
how many more sessions do we have with the guys who walked up?
Oh, well, I mean, so where we sit currently, so long session is over. There will be a short session. What month is the short session start?
February.
Yeah, that will come.
Well, they might start a little
Yeah,
early.
there may be so there's talk of a possible special session that, and there's some compromises that may be beneficial for us in regards to water and wastewater. But normal schedule, they come back in 60 days.
It's 35.
35 days in February. There may be an opportunity for another ask, but short sessions are really hard for asks, but there may be another opportunity for an ask, especially with the revenue forecast.
So we need these guys. We need these guys to line up and
well, I think it's more than
help
just
us
line
what we
up.
got last time.
I think it's
I'm not sure they're our best advocates for asking at this point.
I don't dispute that.
And I think
Nevertheless,
We'd be better-
we need them not to hurt us.
yeah,
that's true, but I don't know that we have any ability to change that. And, you know, I mean, it is what it is, but I feel like, you know, we should maybe just try to be carrying our own water a little bit stronger.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I mean, now we have time. Yes, we're catching our breath, and yes, we're figuring out what direction we want to go. But this is a great opportunity, especially starting about September. Everyone kind of takes August as a breather after a long session. But I think really kicking off strong in September and meeting with all the various members of the Capital Construction Committee again, and just kind of saying, hey, look, you know, February, and Mayor Pulliam's right. It is really difficult to have a larger money ask during the short session. That being said, I think that there is a little bit of wiggle room for you all, given the fact that you got yanked off the list at the 11th hour. So I'm not saying it's definitely a shoo-in, but I'm saying that you have that going for you as well.
I do think it's a mixture of things. I think one is it'd make all the sense in the world to have Representative Heeb and Senator Bonham come in and do a recap on the legislative session, both good, bad, improvements that could be made. One thing that Nellie and I talked about is I think we could, we'd be well served building a better relationship with Representative Jeff Helfrich as well in the area. While he's not our direct representative for the city limits of Sandy, he does have our growth boundary and a large portion of town. I think if you looked at Representative Helfrich's legislative activity and voting record, We would not be super excited about some of the housing things that he kind of sponsored and pushed forward, but that may be the case why he's exactly who we need to be kind of stepping up and advocating for our projects, because he has accumulated some relationships and some favors within the bill. Just an idea. I'll go Carl and Kathleen.
Well, I think if nothing else, and without going into detail, because I've got a bunch of opinions about how we got here or didn't get here, is that we ought to look at a way for us to see if we can't use a sympathy vote next time, or to be able at least to talk to our representatives and see if there's something they can do to try to repair some of the stuff. I've reached out to both of those guys, and I haven't got anything back yet about when I can meet with them, but I think it'd be well worth it for us to chat, figure out a way to put ourselves back on track to look for some of that money, maybe even some other things in it too. But I think it's not good where we're at now. We need to find a.
What was it, Craig? That's for sure.
I'll leave it at that.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I agree that I don't think the February session, that's gonna be just, forcing more new rules on us. I think it's not the money allocation part of the session, but that said, I did see that like the OWEB folks got $4 million. There's a big allocation to the Special Public Works Fund that doesn't appear to have any, I don't, maybe it's already allocated within there, but those big pots of money that they did allocate for grants and all, I guess I'd like to see us pursue getting some of those funds through the Special Public Works Fund and the OWEB $4 million, just to see if those might, it's not the 14 million we need, but it might be something.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just wanted to make a quick note of that.
Mine's more of a question, not a recommendation. I'm just looking backward, analyzing what we could have done differently. As we were touring Salem office to office, there were a lot of other cities and counties asking for the same money we were asking for. Do you know if there were any cities that were approved under wastewater, and who they were and how many they were and who their representation is?
I can get you the
Could you get
exact number. I don't have it.
I have it.
Oh, there you go.
Ongsville got 5 million, Malala got 5 million. And
Can you just
Newport
send
got,
that to me in an email so I
Yep.
know? And I'd like to know who their representative was.
and Newport got 3.8.
Just trying to understand.
All of us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
I was just trying to understand why they didn't, why we were pulled at that last minute.
Yeah.
And understand who didn't get pulled off.
Yeah.
And
And
maybe
Wesleyan
we
got,
could figure out.
5 million for a water line replacement and then that OWEB's got 4 million, so yeah. And I don't quite understand, like I tried to look at the earlier versions of the bill, of the Christmas tree bill, to see where City of Sandy was, and I didn't ever find anything with us on the list.
So the Christmas tree bill is essentially a placeholder. And so it has the blanket kind of relating to clause. And then internally, LRO, the Legislative Revenue Office, works with the co-chairs of the committee of Ways and Means, and they come up with a list. And so it's not published. It was published on Monday. But if you know people, then you can see the list. That's why I saw it on Friday.
Okay.
But it wasn't, it's never published online
Okay,
until
that's
it's
why.
official. And
Because
then
I-
once it's published, it's done.
You said we got taken, yanked off there, and I'm like, I never saw us on
Yeah,
there.
no,
Well, when you were giving me all those totals, the one thing I noticed that was glaringly obvious is none of them over 5 million. Ours was twice that.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like,
Yeah.
And
maybe.
it could have something to do with that.
Oh,
you
well,
know,
you're
the amount
right.
of the ask.
Yeah, I think and that was kind of where the conversation started too, right? Is when we talk about our ask, I think we got to look at size. One is we were successful at the 14 million mark the session before.
Yep.
And when you look at the allocations that cities have gotten in the past, it kind of lined up. But I agree, something may have changed there that we need to look at. The other is, what do we feel about water versus wastewater?
So not knowing the politics at all.
Yeah.
From how it's gonna hit the average ratepayer, it doesn't matter. I mean, we take
Well, that's
10
how I
million
view
off
it.
this, we
One or
take
the
10 million
other.
off, that's gonna be pennies,
Yeah.
100%.
Now Jenny will tell you, and I've heard from more than just Jenny, is that there's more places to go for wastewater money than water money. But I can't tell you how many meetings Nellie and I sat in where they're like, you need to make a direct tie to housing. Well, hell, there's no better tie to housing than a housing moratorium. You know, I mean, we could, that was the one thing I felt like, if we, every time they said housing, if we could have came back and said moratorium,
Yep.
it may have been, there's all this politics at play, who knows, right?
Yep. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's just money.
It bothers me a bunch that our two representatives weren't in there hammering away and saying moratorium, housing, Sandy troubles, all those kind of things.
I
that
think
you
we're
just
all with
mentioned.
you on that.
And I believe that some of that has to be with the way the legislature went with the Senate the last few weeks of, get that, understand the politics of it, but it just feels pretty frustrating that at the last moment, there was some hanky-panky going on. It's my way of saying,
Yeah.
technically, there's some changes in administrative bills, but I think it's still hanky-panky. I think we need to find some support. And I wouldn't mind thinking about some of the other legislators that are in our arena, the Elfriches, Janelles, those kind of people that are on our fringe. Maybe there's some support there too. Certainly, we ought to be looking at some of the OWEB
Yeah.
folks, people who know our Clackamas River problems. And if they want us to get out of that, get cleaned up with that, they need to pony up.
Eyes open though, right? And Nellie didn't really start with this, but there needs to be a recognition that our senator and our representative are both freshmen. They're both Republicans in the extreme, you know, minority in representation. And in the past, when we were successful with their asks, I think we've got a point to, we had Chuck Thompson, senior senator, served on the Capitol Construction Committee. And we had Anna Williams, who's a Democrat in the majority, you know, and that was a really nice formula combination for us.
Well, and this is where I think, and I agree with Kathleen, I think, I don't have any problem leveraging Jeff, I mean, I'm sure he'd be willing to go to bat for us. But I think it's probably at this point in our best interest to advocate for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've done that in the past, and I think we have a strong enough group here and with Nellie that we can, go to those sessions and advocate on our own at this point. And maybe it's not a bad thing to distance a little bit, right? I don't think there's anything, I know Ron had his reasons for what he did, I followed that pretty closely. And
Dirty one,
and it had nothing to do with us, right? So I think sometimes you bite that political chunk off and you just say, hey, we're gonna go advocate for ourselves and create some separation. Not to say that leveraging Jeff, I don't disagree with that at all, so.
That and, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'm
Nellie.
sorry. The only thing I would throw in there is I think it might make sense to just, I understand the distancing, but it does help to have them because certain, like Senator Steiner she's chair of Ways and Means, she wouldn't meet with us she wouldn't meet with anyone unless their senator asked for a meeting. And so, we have to leverage that a little bit, but that doesn't mean we can't advocate on our own, which is essentially what we were doing all of session.
Yeah, I guess yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I
I hear
guess
you.
where I was going with that was, we don't necessarily need to rely on Daniel, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, but we shouldn't have him stumbling in front of us.
He's
I
not
don't say
gonna
they did, but I know that if we can get all holds uncovered and get whatever strings we can pull being drawn, I think that's gonna help us.
So, Nellie, I think some of our asks for you would be is if you can try, work with Tyler and Jeff to arrange for Representative Teeb and Senator Bonham to come to a future council meeting.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is, it sounds like we're all moving towards wastewater. A wastewater ask was the feel, okay, good. And then the county. So
Yes.
I'd love to, obviously February session, there's gonna be you're still doing legislative stuff. But it feels like with the session coming to a conclusion, there may be some time to do a little bit of work with the county on their, we have our bypass thing to try to work into their rate or transportation plan and some of those things as well. So, and other county priorities. Yeah.
Is it a council meeting or a council work session? That we're.
Oh, we would want them at a work session. Yeah.
Just for clarification.
Well, you just hit on a hot spot for me, and I chatted with Nellie a little bit about this a couple weeks ago too, is that I think we're missing the boat in some of the local things that are going on. I know that some of the other cities have specific people that's their job, is to look at what's happening in the county, the metro, non-metro, the rural, all that kind of stuff. make sure that we don't miss out on some of these committees, some of these meetings that do have monies attached to them, grants attached to them. I would love, we're talking about pivoting a little bit here. I would love if it's within our desire to be able to look at some of these ways of getting some of these local committees, local meetings that, how do I say this without getting too negative? We're kind of on the far end of East County. And sometimes things happen on the West County where the big cities are, they just don't talk to us. We need to be in the fray. We need to be there talking. We need to be there being part of whatever's going on there. So I would love to see at least being informed about what's happening at some of these committees that are distributing dollars, direction, that kind of stuff.
One thing I would argue, and I hear you, but the one thing that the county does have resource wise, money wise, is for homeless services. And I am not interested in engaging with the county to get all kinds of additional money spent out here for homeless services.
So let me back a little bit on that one in that, sorry, didn't mean to gather everybody's time, but that's already happening, Dan.
A lot of it, and there's that's in my council report. There's a lot of coordination happening. I'm talking about engaging as far as buying transitional housing facilities and all of those kinds of things. That's where you're seeing a lot of the money spent at the county level.
Okay,
right
but
now.
I'm aware of, and we can chat if you want to offline here, but I'm aware of people are looking for buildings right now that are not going through the city because they're being touched by the county. They want to find these kind of things that I don't think all of us are, or at least if not approving of, at least or aware of them. I think we need to be coordinating those kind of things, making sure they don't sneak on around behind us. We end up with something we don't want.
Great.
And that's what I'm at.
I agree with that. Thank you. Yeah.
Last thing I said, this, it was like 400 and some odd million. It was mostly the lottery dollars, $453 million. And it came in different chunks, but those allocations I was telling you, it totaled 65 million. That was for the Oregon Water Resources Department. But what did get 136 million plus was the Oregon Business Development Department. And Amsville, Malala, and all that, those folks, Newport, they got their sewer, wastewater stuff through that that pot of money, Oregon Business Development Department. And so tying our needs to business development would also be an important part of the, the moratorium, but also the business development, I think would be a good tie.
Sure. Great.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we got? Anything else for Nellie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your report, I liked it. Thank you.
Oh,
You made a comment that nobody read it in depth, but I did
No.
actually. read it, and I
I'm
appreciate
sorry,
it.
I didn't mean to be.
No, you
No,
weren't.
one of
thank
the
you.
point was to get feedback to you too, as
Yeah.
far as whether we, how are you doing in your contract? Do we like what you're doing? And I'm very impressed with.
Yeah.
Even though the outcome didn't turn out too well, I felt like we were better represented. And I felt like the information that you were providing was very honest and very accurate. So thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it was a really tough session. And, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, totally agree, Nellie. We were very active. You're setting up a lot of meetings. There was, everybody was you could tell the representatives, the senators were all briefed and knew about what we were talking about, what we were in there asking for. You came back and pushed back at us a couple of times when we needed to be pushed back. You weren't an order taker. That is
Mhm.
not what we want at all. You did a really good job. And I know that it ended it was a disappointing session with the result. But I don't think anyone here feels like that was because of our representation. You did a really good job for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I know it's with that many freshman legislators, it was definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Are these cats? I have a question about the conversion of commercial to residential property.
Yes.
And that's kind of come up around here because it also, prohibited, it limited SDCs that could be charged and some other pretty controversial things. Do you happen to know, and that was called HB 2984B, but another thing that had been brought to our attention earlier in June was HB 3395, and I'm just, which was also called something like commercial to residential, I forget exactly what the title of that is, but I was just curious if that whole, what we had been told was that they were going to come back and try to do some more maneuvering that way if it didn't pass. I guess it had tried to pass in 20 and 21 and 22 or something.
Yes, I wasn't really tracking it back then, to be totally honest,
Right,
but, I mean, this has been something, it's been a topic of conversation pretty much ever since COVID started and everyone was working from home. I know the Building Owners and Managers Association has been, I think that, you know, obviously this is a really big issue for all the commercial real estate in downtown Portland. And I think that they just see it as it's gonna cost so much money to make the conversion that they're not really that worried about it because it's just never gonna pencil out.
Crazy.
It's,
Do you see the Crown, stuff up the
Yeah.
Crown Plaza and what
Yeah,
it's gonna
that's-
cost and earthquake retrofit and all that?
yeah, and I
crazy.
mean, for a project like that, though, they do have the money because of Here Together and all
Mhm.
the metro levy that passed and everything, so they actually have more money than they know what to do with right now. But yeah, I mean, I would foresee this definitely being a topic of conversation again. I mean, the one portion, the original bill that you mentioned did pass. But I think my understanding is it's a bit more, if the city would like to do this, then they can, rather than a mandate. But that could change very easily.
Well, this says, I think, it says enrolled. Does that mean it passed?
Yes,
So House Bill 3395, which is called residential use of commercial lands. So it wasn't just commercial buildings. Maybe the other one was just commercial buildings or something. I don't know.
I think the other one was commercial
Commercial,
buildings, but you know, why don't
Yeah.
let me go through it and I'll send
Yeah.
you an email with
Yeah.
kind of a breakdown about,
Yeah.
with a little bit more information and more
Yeah.
specifics on that.
Because I did kind of look through that and get a little bit concerned.
Right.
Yes.
Jump in here a little bit. It is affecting Sandy already. If you look down on the city where the business offices are, and I use my world as an example, the realtors. If you look at the offices in each of those realtors offices, there's about 4 of them in the city that are substantial, more than 1 or 2 people. They're almost empty all the time. And I know at least 2 of those building owners are looking for ways to put something in there to make money, and they're not getting people to show up. So they're staying home. And it's just like downtown Portland, although we got a little smaller community here. But I think it's going to affect our downtown and the commercial stuff that's around us as well, because people are just not showing up at the offices anymore. So you have a bunch of empty offices that you have businesses being run out of, and they're going to pivot and do something different with those buildings or something else. I don't know. You just can't have an empty building and not have money coming in. Eventually, there'll have to be some solution. So in terms of our city, I see that as something that's going to come back to us. And I don't know if it's going to bite us, if people are going to be able to turn that building into something that's going to have a very busy, very productive money income business. But at this point, I see a lot of empty offices.
It's definitely a difficult time right now. I mean, as we're trying to find out what the new normal is, it's in the process.
In your report, you mentioned the deal at the end of session that failed by a vote,
The variance
the
bill.
variant. So
Yeah.
part of it was kind of gave us power with the UGB expansion, but what were some of the other parts of that that were?
I think there was just, if there was concern from League of Oregon Cities and others, and Jeff, please feel free to hop in, but it was, you know, we were concerned about losing local control. I mean, there are some, you had UGB expansion powers, but kind of limited in terms of what they could be used for.
And there's word it's coming back.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it was, that was what the special,
Yeah.
the room, well,
Yeah.
one of the a million rumors that I heard. But one of them was that the variance bill would come back for the special session, and that was through the home builders, because the home builders and the governor were pushing that bill. And so it was a special session just for that bill, but some of the Democrats weren't on the floor, and so it went down because it was a tied vote.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it seems like this 3395 would, you know, allowing residential and commercial lands is much more likely to impact Sandy,
okay.
you know, and basically eliminate our zoning map that we have and what's allowed where. So I'm a little concerned about that, so.
I mean, that's something that, you know, will be fleshed out in the rulemaking process. So, you know, we could definitely get tied in on that. I've got it on my radar to circle back with you on that.
It was
And-
one of the ones we were tracking and
Yeah.
it just,
Yes.
it,
It went through, I think it passed on the last day of session or the
Oh, they were
second time.
passing stuff like crazy.
It was just, it was a week long free for all.
Cool.
And you know my time's up then.
You're good. Thank you, Nelly.
Thank
Really
you all very
appreciate
much.
it.
I
Yep.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, with that, I will end our work session. And let's go ahead and keep it rolling, huh? Start our, I'll call our city council meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to our city council meeting. I will be starting with a call to changes to the agenda. We'll then go to public comment. Jeff, has anybody submitted anything for public comment?
No, Mayor.
All right. We'll then go to the response to the last meeting's public comment. We'll go to our consent agenda, which has our city council meeting minutes from August 7th, Public Works Procurement Compact Excavator, Transit Grant Agreement number 35396, Transit Grant Agreement number 35560. From there, we'll round off our evening with a report from our city manager, as well as committee and council reports, and a recognition of Chief Ernie Roberts. With that, will you please call the roll, Jeff? Thank you.
Yes, Counselor Mayton.
Present.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here. That was a-
Counselor Sheldon.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Exner.
Present.
Counselor Hokinson.
Still here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here, still here as well. All right, is there any proposed changes to tonight's agenda?
I have a procedural question.
Okay,
It's come up before, but when we have these large consent agendas and I wasn't here for the previous meeting.
Yep.
Is it possible to abstain from just the one item, or do we need to separate it into separate votes, or just we abstain from the whole thing and not worry about it?
It's gonna pass, so.
just abstain. Abstain.
It's simple.
And when it's something more controversial, we'll visit it a little longer. Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Yeah, thanks.
Just For everybody who sees my absence, I agree with these.
Right.
Putting it out there now.
Yeah.
Not controversial.
As a point of order.
All right, no public comment, so let's go to previous meetings, public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. We had two public comments at the last meeting. The first was from Ms. Stenerson regarding some blackberries that were growing into her property. I got an update from Public Works today that overgrown greenery has been trimmed back, thanks especially to some additional manpower we have from some new Public Works employees that were added during the budget process. So that issue has been resolved in the short term. Long term, we need to do some better weed management and control over there, and we'll add that to our docket to ensure it doesn't grow back into her property. And then the other public comment that was received was an update from the D31 Foundation. And so no response to that other than just again another thank you for their outstanding National Night Out and the money that was raised for the Shop of the Cop program.
Thank you. With that, let's go ahead and move ahead to our consent agenda. Unless there's discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Can't be you, Hopkins.
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion from Counselor Sheldon and a second from Counselor Mayton. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
Aye.
All right,
Abstain.
motion passes. Moving ahead, report from our city manager.
Thank you again, Mayor. Very brief report from me this evening. As I indicated in the weekend update that I sent out, right, I guess just a few days ago, that seemed a lot longer. Chief Roberts is retiring and Lieutenant Lundry will be stepping in as the interim police chief. We've started off internally some of the initial steps of the recruitment process for the next police chief. I am fully aware that the council has an interest in the next city manager sort of leading that transparent and fair recruitment process. We were just sort of getting the initial steps of job descriptions, position profile, and things like that taken care of now. So when the next city manager is on board, we can just hit the ground running. And then lastly, from me, you may recall that during the budget process, the budget committee and the council allocated about $30,000 to do a staffing study for the police department. We have entered into an agreement with a firm that will help us do that. And so over the next few months, we'll make progress on the full-blown staffing study and department analysis. Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you. Committee and council reports. Done.
Not much for me. I've been out. I'm looking forward to a Winterfest planning work session briefing sooner than later. Because
Yep.
we're running out of time. So
I agree. Carl.
Also not a lot here. One thing that I've had a chance to talk with Kelly a little bit about, Kelly O'Neill, our planning director, is that I've noticed there've been a fair amount of individual work on the backyards and moving a lot of dirt. I guess that would be the thing. And I'm chatting with him. It looks like there's no way to do some of the administrative limitations on things where the development rules and CC&Rs do not have any limitations on it. And so we're kind of watching that, and I'm a little concerned. I surely want us to have those things with the erosion control, preventing any soil movement when the rains do start. They are going to
can you
start.
elaborate on what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
I've got a couple of backyards that I'm watching. One of them right across the street from me that has done a lot of dirt movement in their backyard.
In your fears because of potential erosion?
Right, right.
Oh, okay. All right.
We have some history of things happening towards the end of the summer. And when the rains do come and there isn't then the control, and these are small little lots. These aren't like the developments that have 30, 40 houses on them. This is the stuff that has just a 5,000, 10,000 square foot lot. And they've moved a bunch of,
It's a homeowner, not a
it's
developer.
not a developer, it's a homeowner, right, right. I think we need to be watchful of those things. Maybe even informed about these folks that they don't end up getting into the fall with the rains coming and lots of bare ground, so. And that's really about all I have at the moment, but we've been chatting about how that might be handled as we go through the summer.
Thank you. Kathleen.
The library, folks, we didn't have a meeting this month, but Susie Jenkins retired from the library after 17 years, so we wished her well.
Yes.
She's done a great job and it's been just a wonderful, customer service representative for that, for the library. I was thrilled to see parts of Pleasant paved there by Beers and all that. That looked really good. Hoping to get the section in front of the elementary school there one of these days, but it's a great start. So I was curious, it sounds like you guys, there was some Travel Oregon grants available up to $100,000. Did you go after the live cam thing or the community campus?
Live cam.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. good.
Hopefully we can finally get awarded that
Yeah,
after
that'd be great.
numerous tries and
Good. And then I'm just kind of waiting for the compliance enforcement officer, what do you call the code?
Code
compliance, whatever it is, yeah. I've had a couple comments from neighbors and folks in the city just mention about issues they're having and with, just things that would be obvious to anybody just driving by. It's not even, you don't have to go in anybody's backyard even, so it's pretty obvious. And then I've just noticed stuff because I do a lot of stuff on Google Maps and Google Earth and stuff of just kind of obvious trespasses that are going on that need to be looked into. When they get on, well, I'll just kind of send a few emails or at least forward these people to them.
that'd be great. We're predominantly complaint driven,
Mhm.
at least up until we get a new person who might have a little more time to
That's-
be proactive. So
yeah.
getting it on the docket is a great place for us to start.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to say personally that Ernie, I know we're going to recognize him here in a minute, but it's been great working with you and congratulations. It's quite a feat. Second thing is, where are we at with the, like, I know we had talked about RV permits, and all of that stuff. What, did we pass that? Is that still floating around? Okay. Is there been, like, I see a lot of RVs. Is that even occurring or? We
I
putting
don't
it
know how
out there?
many permits we've issued, but
I don't have
perhaps
a
you do.
number.
That's all right.
Actually, not a number, but yeah, the program is in, I mean, we're in full swing. We got everything we needed. We had it. We needed a little bit of time, as I told, I think I told council before, that we needed a bit of time to get this up and running as far as equipment that we needed, some forms we needed to have created and things like that. Those are all done. we've used the ordinance already many times. I mean, I know there's still more out there. I run across them too. And our code enforcement took a much needed vacation for a while, so we fell a little bit behind, but we're working on it. Yeah. We're aware of the ones that are still out there that we still need to address as well.
Yeah, no, I don't know either way. I was just wondering, it's that time of year and it just kind of made me think of where we were at moving
Yeah.
forward. So, thank you. Yeah, the last thing I have is, this doesn't have to go in the minutes either, but like, I just wanted to publicly share, like 13 years ago today, I think I made the best decision I've ever made. So it's my wife and I's 13th anniversary. So,
Going in the minutes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
so we made it to lucky number 13. I have no reason that we won't make it past that. So, yeah.
I think it's a short meeting.
Not totally in the doghouse.
Lori.
I don't really have much. I did have kind of a question. If anybody knows, so we talked about, you mentioned Winterfest and we talked about possibly doing a parade. And so if anybody has the contact information for the person who is heading that portion of the Sandy Mountain Festival.
So would you like to go meet with her tomorrow at 5:30 with me?
I have a,
Otherwise, I'll pass it along, but yeah.
there's a chance I
Diane.
might, be able to make
Yeah,
that.
I'd
I've
love to
got
have
we'll
you.
talk after.
Yeah, but
So,
Diane Adder, I give you the
okay, either
the
way.
info.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then problem solved. Other than that, I don't really have much.
I'll be short too. I just wanted to, I don't have anything new to talk about or questions to ask. I just want to give a shout out to a group here in Sandy called Mount Hood Hospice. They've been around for 43 years. This is my first time on city council when they're actually putting on their event on Thursday evening at Minnick Park between 5:30 and 7:30, which is the remembrance of people that passed away for families. I've been attending it for 3 consecutive years. This will be my 3rd year, but I've never been on city council, so I haven't got a chance to give them a kudos for it. They do a wonderful job for families in Sandy and the surrounding communities. And this is a time where they have volunteers that hang up pictures of past loved ones, and you can pay homage to them as you walk through the park on Thursday, the 24th, between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. So, thank you, Chris.
My report, last week I went to the mayor's conference, homeless, the entire time. Which is, it's a very big issue. It's good that we were focusing on it, but a lot of focus on that issue. No mention of home rule. Very little mention of some of the state policies that are coming down on our local communities. I went to the medium city breakout and I really pushed those issues really hard. And then Tom Ellis went to the larger city from Happy Valley and pushed those issues really hard as well. So hopefully we can get some headway. But the report, I can't come back and tell you all that, you know, the league is super focused on home rule and our local authority and pushing back on that. A lot of it is going towards trying to get additional resources for the homeless population and services and things that for local communities. On that issue of homelessness, I had an opportunity to meet with NUPA as part of the conversation that Carl and I were just having. I know Carl's also met with NUPA. I've asked Tyler and Jeff to reach out and set up the meeting as well. Part of what's going on is all the money is flowing to the counties and these local, regional kind of nonprofit agencies. And a lot of money that has gone out has gone to these community resource managers. And the league pushed pretty hard for the money to go there, not to law enforcement, because they felt like they couldn't get it through this legislature going to law enforcement. So it's now going through kind of the ant farms of the world. My understanding is that NUPA and Ant Farm's been in touch with Sean Landry and coordinating some of that. And so my proposal would kind of be to have a work session here soon jointly with the homeless task force, try to get some updates on some of the stuff that's going on, coordinating between kind of Ant Farm and the money flowing there and our local law enforcement and tackle some of those things. So-
Is that okay to ask questions? Sorry.
Oh, please, yeah.
We had that big all come together with a lot of different agencies.
Yeah.
Is that the entity that we want to reconvene for this discussion, or is this just a smaller work session?
Well, I mean, please, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I think it would be better for it to be smaller at this point, and only because I think there's better direction keeping it smaller at this point and then looking to have those larger meetings in the future. Versus having a large meeting right now with a lot of entities, with not everybody being on the same page or having all the information. I don't think it would be very productive.
There's a lot for this council, I think, to get informed on and educated about. Carl kind of alluded to it, some of the comments on, there is, I mean, I said, I was talking large scale transitional housing with that comment, but there's a lot of money flowing towards smaller transitional housing type things, maybe outside of our city limits, some in our city limits. I think we just need to really be aware of kind of what's going on and what's coming up. So that's the report for that. Be looking for your email here the next couple of days. They're circulating around cities right now through C4 a value statement on tolling that they're trying to get all the different cities to buy in on. All the cities are pretty much against tolling in the tolling plan, so they're pretty unified, but it's about as watered down as you can get. But hopefully it'll be something we can all.
Are they looking for individual responses or just?
Well, no, what
communities
we're
like
looking
council?
for is, if every counselor in Clackamas County wants their comment in there, that's gonna be tough. Kind of what I'm looking for is, do you have something in this that's, pushing that, you cannot agree with this, or you just really want to see a tweak? But what I'm really asking is are we okay putting our logo on there? That's the real question. Basically, this is gonna get sent to the governor and all these legislators. It's gonna have West Lynn, Wilsonville, Happy Valley. Are we okay putting our logo on?
And the essence is we're not really happy with toilet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and as you progress on it, we ask for you to really be communicative and transparent. It's
So-
pretty watered down.
So if it's that
Yeah.
watered down and that's not the approach that we agree with.
Yeah.
What's the thought there?
You can push back harder, but to get all the cities from the Milwaukee's to the Lake Oswego's and everybody else written on, some of that language kind of has to be in there. So I would say you got to remember it's Paul Salvis and it's Ben West from the Clackamas County Commission that's kind of the liaisons on there. I would say they're the strongest voices on that commission against tolling. So they are proactively working to get the strongest worded letter that they can get. It's just not as strong as I think we would necessarily love it to be. I sent around an article about the tree ordinance, where they're looking at kind of maybe possibly suspending some of that. So keep your eye on that. And Kathleen and I were just talking about, look for the recent article from Steve Dunn, the Oregonian, that came out this week, talking about some of the governor's housing policies and how that works with some of our local and environmental concerns and stuff. Pretty intriguing article, and I think we can steal some of that language for some of our advocacy moving ahead. So with that, that's my report. Let's move ahead to a recognition of Chief Ernie Roberts. Well, Chief, I got to start by reminding you, and I don't know, maybe you don't know this. My last speeding ticket came from you, actually, and I totally deserved it.
Well done.
It was prior to being mayor, and
I didn't know that. This
Yeah.
is how long I've been doing this. I did not.
Yeah,
remember that.
I was speeding on Meinig before the speed bumps were there to slow me down. And
The hill.
And I said, I'm not going that fast. And he says, but you were accelerating. So that was.
I mean, it's funny to me. It's probably not that funny to you.
That's in the past.
Yeah.
The money's in the past.
One of you still remembers.
Well, I was busy.
Well, it was my last one. But on a serious note, seriously, thank you. Your legacy here in this community, there's the old saying, you just want to leave things better than how you inherited them, right? And you're walking out of a department with a great culture, fully, I think we're fully staffed, or just about fully staffed. For the most part, we have been fully staffed with just tremendous officers. On a personal note, I got to spend the better, most of a year traveling the state and taking credit for a lot of your work, talking about law enforcement, what a great department that we have. I mean, you really, Chief, did a great job. And as someone who grew up here and raising my family here, it really does mean a lot. Thank you for that. So
You're very welcome. If I may, I don't want to keep everybody long. I'd like to say just a few words really quick. For one thing, thank you, everybody, for it's been a crazy journey. A wonderful one, really. I'm thankful for the opportunity. There's always some bumps in the road. And I think it was a hard decision for me, but I think it was time for me just personally that, when that time is. And some things have happened in my life and that I thought were, well, I think it's time for me to move on. And I feel like if I didn't now that I might be jeopardizing some time with my daughters and my new granddaughter and my wife and all that. So those were factors in my decision. I say that because I wanted you to know that had nothing to do with the city, because I just absolutely love it here. Tyler and I kind of had this conversation before, and it's just been I've told him, I've told a lot of people, I've had one-on-ones with all my folks, and it's just the best place that I've worked. And I've worked for a few different cities, and it was fantastic. Has nothing to do with that. It's just a personal decision. I had a wonderful time, and it was just time for me to move on. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity that, I've been through some city managers that are just worked with some wonderful people that just were mentors and have become friends. And I think that says a lot. So I'm just excited about the next chapter. A little sad that I'm leaving because I'm still kind of getting used to it, but I'm just happy. The journey was just wonderful, and I just met so many great people. I'm gonna miss everybody, of course. And Mayor, when you said that, when you want things to be good when you leave, and that's so true. You don't really think about those things until you get ready to leave. And you're gonna miss the people, you realize that when you get close. Mm-hmm. So I'm very happy about our agency. I just like the men and women that work. They're just wonderful. They work so hard, and they try every day, and you just can't ask for any more than that. They give it 100%. And it's a wonderful group of people. I'm honored to be able to have worked with them and for all of you. So thank you so much. I will never forget it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
I'd like to remember a couple things. One was the last time I got stopped for a traffic problem was from you for not wearing a seatbelt.
Really?
My
Did you give me the
contention-
ticket, though?
No, he told me very strongly that if you ever caught me again without one, it would be very embarrassing. So I appreciate that. Not getting a
Anybody
ticket.
else?
Anybody
I've
else?
never gotten a ticket from you, Chief. Never.
And secondly, I remember when we were going through some of the marijuana stuff and we were saying we wanted to
Did he
limit.
catch you?
And Ernie, the chief and his staff, no, he didn't. The chief and his staff did a really good job. I remember thinking there was a lot of angry folks at that time, and they were from some of the potential people who wanted to buy, sell, and produce and all that kind of stuff. And I remember walking out into the parking lot and feeling really comfortable that there was plenty of staff, police officers around to make sure that we were safe. And I appreciate that. That really, it made a difference for me. I know there were several other counselors that were concerned, and some of the hot-headedness that happened at that time was obvious. So I appreciate it. Thanks for protecting us. And I know your staff's here every single time we're here, so there's always that. So thank you. Appreciate it. All your years of service here.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real fast. And Chief, I didn't know who you were or meet you until I started attending city council.
But you gave
meetings.
you a ticket, didn't you?
No, he did not give me a ticket.
Oh,
Until I attended after I got elected as the city council before I became on city council. But as a resident of Sandy since 2005 and raising my 4 daughters here, I just want to tell you this. I have never, ever feared sending my kids out into the streets of Sandy at all, the entire time I've lived here. I'm a kid that grew up in Chicago, and I couldn't go a block without my mom or dad seeing me. My kids could roam the town. This is until they got driver's license, of course. But prior to that, I felt totally secure. And I attribute that to your leadership, your guidance, your culture, and the team here in Sandy. And for you to remain anonymous to me is a great thing, because I didn't know who you were. It just shows the great work the city of Sandy police force has done under your leadership. I just want to say thank you for that.
I'm glad to hear that, and you're very welcome. That's actually that's actually in our mission statement, is the folks and go out without the fear of crime. That's part of our mission. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
All right, Chief, we got a parting gift for you here.
Wow.
Well, hey,
Wait, should we can we get a picture, please?
And you gotta open.
It's like Christmas.
Did you get Tyler up there? Maybe see or
How about
Tyler's
this?
down.
Get our
Yeah.
council when you open. Might be great to have everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, you got. Yeah, take a picture with us there. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Too. Yeah.
Please.
Hey, come on. Hey, come on, you've been part of this ride. You have to put up with me when I get home every day.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Smiling.
I'm gonna take enough that there will be one where you're definitely everyone's smiling. Okay.
You know, my youngest nephew, if he's gotta stand up too long, he sit there and he'll tell you, I already said cheese.
It's happened. I already said it at the party.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I'm just gonna hold it. So somebody can-
I think
We're gonna jump right in.
All right, with that, I will conclude the city council meeting. I want to reconvene at 7 o'clock for our executive session.